Welcome to this lecture on pharmacology of tetracyclines. So, as usual, the specific learning objectives would be to learn everything about tetracyclines, the classification, the mechanism of action, the mechanisms of resistance, the therapeutic uses, adverse effects, and contraindications. So, this picture shows the nucleus of tetracyclines. As you can see, there are 4 cyclic rings, because of which these compounds are known to be as tetracyclines. The first tetracycline was introduced as chlortetracycline in 1948. It was obtained from soil actinomycetes. The source was Streptomyces aureofaciens, the name given because of the golden yellow color of these colonies. At that time, penicillin G and streptomycin were available. Chlortetracycline was different because it can be given orally, whereas penicillin G and streptomycin are given parenterally. And also, the spectrum of action was different. Chlortetracycline had a broad spectrum of antimicrobial activity. Penicillin G was active predominantly on gram-positive organisms. Streptomycin was predominantly beneficial in gram-negative organisms. Other tetracyclines which were subsequently discovered were derived from mutants, or they were semisynthetic in nature. These 5 tetracyclines are important because they are the ones which are used therapeutically: oxytetracycline, tetracycline, demeclocycline, doxycycline, and minocycline. Doxycycline and minocycline are the latest or the most advanced tetracyclines, whereas oxytetracycline and tetracycline are the older tetracyclines. Streptomyces rhymosus is the source of oxytetracycline. Tetracycline, doxycycline, and minocycline are semisynthetic. Demeclocycline is obtained from a mutant form of Streptomyces aureofaciens. In 2005, synthetic analogues of tetracyclines, which were called as glycyl cyclines, represented by tigecycline, was introduced. Tetracyclines are predominantly bacteriostatic. They prevent the multiplication of the bacteria. This they do so by interfering with bacterial protein synthesis after binding to some specific binding sites on the 30S ribosomes. Sensitive bacteria have a carrier mediated active transport process which concentrates tetracyclines intracellularly. This transport processes are absent in human cells. That is why tetracyclines are non-toxic to human beings. And also, the protein synthesizing machinery in human cells, they do not allow tetracyclines to bind efficiently. This is also a reason for non-toxicity towards human cells. Tetracyclines are classical broad spectrum antibacterials because when they were introduced, they inhibited all bacteria, almost all microorganisms, including bacteria, except viruses and fungi. But as of today, they are not useful against all the microorganisms because of resistance, which was due to indiscriminate prescribing. Now, what are the mechanisms of antibacterial resistance towards tetracyclines? The resistant bacteria concentrate less tetracyclines, that is, the transport processes have become weak. The porin channels through which tetracyclines enter into gram-negative microorganisms do not allow the tetracyclines to penetrate in resistant bacteria. And even if the tetracyclines accumulate into the cells, the resistant microorganisms could have developed some efflux mechanisms which pump out the tetracycline molecules. And finally, the plasmid-derived protein protects the binding site on the ribosomes from tetracyclines. These are the mechanisms of resistance towards tetracyclines. Now, inactivating enzymes are not that important in the mechanisms of resistance towards tetracyclines, but they are very important in the mechanisms of resistance towards beta-lactam antimicrobials. Now, the present antimicrobial spectrum of tetracyclines is like this. A very few gram-positive cocci respond. Streptococcus pyogenes, Staph aureus, Enterococci, Streptococcus pneumonia. Only a few respond. Only a few gram-negative cocci, gonococci and meningococci respond. All the gram-positive bacilli respond. Clostridium tetani and other anaerobes, Corynebacterium diphtheria, Bacillus anthracis, Listeria, Propionibacterium acne are inhibited. The gram-negative bacilli which are sensitive to tetracyclines includes Haemophilus ducreyi, which is causative for chancroid, Calymatobacterium granulomatis, which can cause granuloma inguinale, Yersinia pestis, the causative organism for plague, Yersinia enterocolitica, and Clostridium jejuni, which can cause bacillary dysentery, Francisella tularensis, which causes tularemia, brucellosis causing brucella, Pasteurella multocida, Vibrio cholera, which causes cholera, Helicobacter pylori, which is responsible for recurrences of peptic ulcers. These are the gram-negative bacilli which are inhibited by tetracyclines. The Enterobacteriaceae, including E. coli, Pseudomonas, Proteus, Klebsiella, Enterobacter, Serratia, Salmonella, including Salmonella typhi and Salmonella paratyphi, are largely resistant to the actions of tetracyclines. The spirochetes, Treponema pallidum, which causes syphilis, Borrelia recurrentis, which is responsible for relapsing fever, are inhibited. Rickettsial microorganisms are highly susceptible to the actions of tetracyclines. Mycoplasma and actinomyces are moderately sensitive. Mycoplasma is responsible for atypical pneumonia. Actinomycetes causes actinomycosis. The protozoa, Entamoeba histolytica, which causes amoebiasis, and Plasmodia, which is responsible for malaria, are inhibited at high concentrations. Mycobacterium leprae are sensitive to only one tetracycline, that is minocycline. Now, the differences among tetracyclines are like this. The newer ones, doxycycline and minocycline, are more potent. They are used in a dose of 100 to 200 milligrams per day, and they are long acting. They can be given once a day, whereas the older ones have to be given at least 4 times a day. The newer ones, doxycycline, minocycline, have better oral absorption, 95 to 100% absorption. The older ones are incompletely absorbed, that is 70 to 80%, and the newer ones, absorption is not interfered by the presence of food. Superinfections are least with doxycycline and minocycline because they are completely absorbed in the upper gastrointestinal tract, and very less reaches the lower part of the GIT. Hence, superinfections are least with the newer ones. All tetracyclines are excreted by the kidneys with the exception of doxycycline. The implication of this is doxycycline is the tetracycline which is preferred in patients with renal insufficiency. Oxytetracycline and tetracycline have relatively less hepatotoxicity. Doxycycline and minocycline have more phototoxicity. Minocycline has been associated with vestibular toxicity, that is, it can cause ataxia, nystagmus, etc. Tetracyclines are used in the form of capsules. Most of the times, almost 100% of the times they are used. They should not be administered intramuscularly because they are highly irritant, can cause a lot of pain, and there is no need for injecting these compounds intravenously. Topical preparations are highly sensitizing, although tetracyclines are available as eye ointments, eye drops, ear drops, skin ointments, etc. Tetracycline capsules, oxytetracycline tablets, dimeclocycline tablets, doxycycline capsules, minocycline capsules. So as we have discussed, the newer ones are absorbed completely. Food does not interfere with their absorption. Tetracyclines chelate with metals. For example, they chelate calcium in milk. They chelate magnesium, aluminium in non-systemic antacids. They chelate iron, and they also chelate sucralfate. So the complex which is formed is insoluble and unabsorbable. So whenever we are administering these compounds or even food like milk, you have to increase the amount of time between the administration of tetracyclines and the administration of the other compounds, or even the intake of milk. Volume of distribution of tetracyclines is more than 1 liter per kg. Tetracyclines have the ability to accumulate. They accumulate in the liver, spleen, and connective tissue of the teeth and bones. And all tetracyclines except doxycycline depend on the renals for excretion. They are irritant in nature, so when you give them orally, you can expect nausea, epigastric pain, diarrhea, etc. Superinfections, of course, will be caused because they are broad spectrum antimicrobials, and the older tetracyclines have more prone for causing superinfections because they are incompletely absorbed from the upper GIT. Odynophagia and esophageal ulceration are common with doxycycline because the powder from the capsules sometimes it comes out and it can irritate the mucosa on contact. Phototoxicity is seen with tetracyclines, a sunburn like rash and other severe skin manifestations, especially with doxycycline and minocycline. So this is the sunburn like rash which can be caused by tetracyclines. That is why we say these compounds are phototoxic in nature, and this is more with doxycycline and minocycline. Hepatotoxicity is one of the toxicities of tetracycline. Fatty infiltration and jaundice is seen occasionally. Pregnant women on tetracyclines are more prone for fatal acute hepatic necrosis. That is why they are contraindicated during pregnancy. Pre-existing renal disease patients are more prone for renal toxicity, and outdated tetracyclines can cause Fanconi-like syndrome. That is, the degraded products of tetracyclines like epitetracycline and hydrotetracycline, epi and hydrotetracycline, they are the degraded products of tetracycline which can cause Fanconi-like syndrome, that is renal or nephrotoxicity. And of course, tetracyclines will chelate the calcium in the developing teeth and bones and forms insoluble non-absorbable complex, and this chelated complex can damage the teeth and bones. If they are administered during mid-pregnancy to 5 months of extrauterine life, temporary teeth are damaged. brownish discoloration of the teeth, ill-formed teeth, which is more prone for caries, has been observed. And when they are administered from 3 months of extrauterine life to 6 years of life, the permanent teeth get affected. So this is the brownish discoloration of the teeth due to administration of tetracyclines. So tetracyclines chelate with calcium present in the teeth, and this complex gets deposited in the teeth, giving rise to discoloration and deformation of the teeth. And the teeth are also more prone for caries apart from getting discolored. Minocycline has been associated with vestibulotoxicity. That means it can cause ataxia, nystagmus, tinnitus, etc. Demeclocycline causes diabetes insipidus by antagonizing antidiuretic hormone. Tetracyclines are anti-anabolic in nature. They reduce the synthesis of proteins. Very rarely you can see hypersensitivity reactions with tetracyclines, and all forms of allergic reactions like rashes, urticaria, pruritus ani and pruritus vulvae, and even exfoliative dermatitis have been reported with the use of tetracyclines. So the precautions we have to undertake while prescribing these compounds: liver disease and renal disease, tetracyclines are contraindicated with the exception of doxycycline, which can be administered in patients with renal insufficiency, because doxycycline doesn't depend on the kidneys. It is undergoing biliary excretion. It is excreted in the fecal matter. Pregnancy, lactation and children below 6 years, we contraindicate the use of tetracyclines. So tetracyclines are teratogenic, and they can also damage the teeth and bones in the fetus as well as children below the age of 6 years. Outdated preparations of tetracyclines should not be used because they can cause Fanconi-like syndrome. They can cause nephrotoxicity. So what are the therapeutic uses? What are the clinical indications of tetracyclines? Yes, previously, because they are broad spectrum in their antimicrobial activity, they were used for empirical therapy. That is, when we were not sure of the bacterial diagnosis, tetracyclines were commonly used. But because of the emergence of resistance, we don't prefer tetracyclines in serious life-threatening infections. And in fact, for empirical treatment and for mixed infections, nowadays fluoroquinolones, third and even fourth generation cephalosporins, combinations of beta-lactam and aminoglycoside antimicrobials are commonly used, both for empirical therapy of serious life-threatening infections as well as empirical therapy of mixed infections. Tetracyclines, even today, they are the preferred drugs in rickettsial infections, where they produce a dramatic response. Q fever, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, typhus, which are rickettsial infections, respond very well to tetracyclines. Tetracyclines are preferred in the chemotherapy of cholera. They reduce the duration of illness as well as the stool volume. And in the treatment of plague, both bubonic and pneumonic, tetracyclines are administered for the blind or even mass treatment of people who are prone to develop plague, especially during epidemics. Tetracyclines are preferred in the treatment of atypical pneumonia, where the duration of illness is reduced. They are highly effective in the treatment of brucellosis, and the regimen here is doxycycline 200 mg daily, rifampicin 600 mg daily for a period of 6 weeks. Relapsing fever caused by Borrelia recurrentis responds very well to tetracyclines when administered 1 to 2 weeks. Psittacosis is cured completely when we administer tetracyclines for 2 weeks. Please remember, doxycycline 100 mg once or twice a day is the most common tetracycline used. Similarly, tetracyclines are preferred even today for the treatment of venereal diseases or sexually transmitted diseases like chlamydial non-specific urethritis endocervicitis, where doxycycline is preferred for 7 days. Lymphogranuloma venereum and granuloma inguinale respond to doxycycline administered for around 3 weeks. Tetracyclines are second line drugs in gonorrhea. They are second line to azithromycin, ceftriaxone, amoxicillin. They are second line drugs in syphilis, the first line being ceftriaxone in penicillin allergic patients. They are second line drugs in chancroid to azithromycin and ceftriaxone. They are second line drugs to streptomycin in tularemia. They are used as alternative drugs in leptospirosis, the first line drug being penicillins. So tetracyclines are given for at least 1 to 2 weeks in leptospirosis. They are also given once a week during epidemics of leptospirosis in susceptible patients. And they are second line drugs to penicillin or ampicillin in the treatment of tetanus, anthrax, actinomycosis and listeriosis. They are second line drugs to ceftriaxone or azithromycin in the treatment of chlamydial pneumonia. This photograph shows the rickettsial infection, that is a rash caused by Q fever. And this is the Rocky Mountain spotted fever, again a rickettsial rash. The typhus fever induced rash, once again caused by rickettsia. So rickettsial infections are highly susceptible to tetracyclines. For the treatment of relapsing fever caused by Borrelia recurrentis, tetracyclines are the first line drugs. For leptospirosis, which can be caused by contamination with rat urine, which can happen during floods or even in hostels where there could be problem with the drainages, tetracyclines are second line drugs to penicillins. Tetracyclines are second line drugs in the treatment of actinomycosis to penicillins. Very rarely tetracyclines are used in the treatment of urinary tract infections, community acquired pneumonia. They may be used as adjuvants in the treatment of chronic amoebiasis, as adjuvants in chloroquine resistant falciparum malaria, and rarely they are used in the treatment of acne. Tigecycline is a synthetic tetracycline analog. It's a glycyl cycline introduced in 2005. It's a derivative of minocycline. Tigecycline cannot be given orally. It is administered only intravenously in the form of an infusion. Spectrum of tigecycline includes all tetracycline sensitive and resistant bacteria and other microorganisms. So that means tigecycline has the broadest spectrum of action. It is given only intravenously as an infusion. It has a half-life of 37 to 67 hours. Volume of distribution is huge. It is distributed to an extent of greater than 11 liters per kg. That means it requires what is called as a loading dose. Please remember, tigecycline requires a loading dose because it has a high volume of distribution, followed by what are called as maintenance doses. Now, why the tetracycline resistant microorganisms are sensitive to tigecycline? This is because the efflux proteins which pump out tetracyclines cannot pump out tigecycline. So tigecycline remains within the microorganisms, and it has the same mechanism of action of tetracycline, that is, it is interfering with bacterial protein synthesis. And the second reason why it is useful against resistant microorganisms is the protection protein, which is derived from plasmid, is not able to protect the microorganisms from tigecycline the way it can protect the microorganisms from tetracyclines. That is why all tetracycline resistant microorganisms are sensitive to the action of tigecycline. So antimicrobial spectrum of tigecycline, it has the broadest spectrum. It includes most of the gram positive and gram negative cocci, most of the gram positive and gram negative bacilli, including Enterobacteriaceae, methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus, vancomycin resistant Staphylococcus aureus, vancomycin resistant Enterococcus, and even anaerobes. But Pseudomonas and Proteus, which are Enterobacteriaceae, are not inhibited by tigecycline. Although tigecycline can be used in many bacterial infections, it is approved only for the treatment of serious and hospitalized community acquired pneumonia. It is also approved for the treatment of complicated skin and skin structure infections, and also for the treatment of complicated intra-abdominal infections caused by Enterobacteriaceae, Enterococci, and anaerobes. So if we revise the first two indications, that is community acquired pneumonia, complicated skin and skin structure infections, we can also use the 5th generation cephalosporins. If you revise the chapter on cephalosporins, ceftaroline, fosamil, and ceftobiprole, medocaril are indicated for community acquired pneumonia as well as complicated skin and skin structure infections. Adverse effects of tigecycline include gastrointestinal adverse effects, superinfections like tetracyclines. They can also cause phototoxicity. They are contraindicated in children and pregnant women, and some infusion site reactions have been associated with tigecycline. So to summarize, we have discussed in this lecture presentation the history behind the discovery of tetracyclines, the introduction to tetracyclines, the classification of tetracyclines, the differences amongst the various tetracyclines, the mechanism of action, the antimicrobial spectrum, the therapeutic uses, adverse effects, precautions, contraindications of tetracycline class of antimicrobials. Thank you very much for joining me. Happy reading. All the best. Take care.